So if you imagine like airplanes and they're at the airport and the fog rolls in, and if you're on the ground, it's very hard to take off. But if you're already up in the air, it's very easy to stay up in the air. And it's kind of like the AI content that's coming in is that fog, right? There's just going to be thousands of AI-generated content pieces just flooding onto everyone's feed. And if you don't have a really good hook, you're just not going to drown out that noise.
You guys must all be thinking about this.
I have so much. All right. So one thing I think everyone has to decide on if they're going to start making content is, am I an entertainer or am I an educator, right off the bat? And so I think AI content for sure will have tremendous leverage on entertainment, more so than education. Because the big underlying thing that Daniel's hitting at is that you have to have proof, right? Like an AI avatar cannot come in and say, I sold my company for free. They can't. They didn't do anything because they don't exist in the real world, which is why, in my opinion, like the absolute foolproof method for making educational content is do epic shit and then talk about the epic shit you did. Period. And so like I'm in LA. So yesterday we also, we had the school games winners come out with schools platform that hosts online communities. And the winner of the last school game, so 90 days, he got to like 300 and something thousand a month from a YouTube channel that he started 16 months ago. So he started 16 months ago making videos about AI. Now, what was his interesting thing? So he was just always into AI, learned about the tools, and then he started helping small businesses for like $1,500, $2,500 a month, where he would just help them implement these automations that would save them money and time. And then people were like, well, how did you do that? And so he just basically would just explain each of the automations that he made for each of these businesses on his channel. And he made one video a day explaining one of the automations. And then he said, if you want, I have a group that's whatever, $300, $400 a month that shows you how to build the same automations. To your point about the education is like, you just need some proof. And it doesn't, like, you don't have to, like, the bigger the proof you have, the wider TAM you'll be able to reach, because more people would be, I'll just put the words, impressed. If you just are in your 20s, and to be fair, you've just quit Goldman Sachs, it's like, that is enough of a thing that, because it's a 1% type deal, right? But you can 1% through achievement. But the other side that I think people widely underestimate is you can 1% through volume of work. So if I said, I read 200 books last year, let me show you the 200. They're all dog-eared. Let me tell you what I learned. Like, I'd be like, well, shoot. Because I think everybody wants a bargain on time, right? Like, I went on 100 speed dates. This is what I learned. It's like, well, I don't want to go on 100 dates, but like anyone can do that. So it's either 1% achievement or 1% effort. But this one you can do, and even if you have zero outcome, there's still stuff that you'll learn, and then people find interesting that you can build an audience around. And if you do that enough times, eventually you do achieve something that is interesting, and then that kind of becomes permanent. But at the end of the day, like, proof always beats promise.
I also think anybody can go viral online with one of two things. We've talked a lot about experience. So if you do have experience, if you built $1 billion in assets under management business, gone to Goldman, built 7 startups, that's incredible. That's not normal. That's totally fine. But that means that you could just have the everyday other E of starting the experience. I think we obsess on expertise. Expertise is the way to make content online and make millions. But what about just the experience? You could say, actually, I've done nothing. I'm a college dropout. I've fucked around a lot. I don't have much figured out, but over the next year, I'm going to try to make $1 million. And you can go just as viral, if not more. I mean, a good example would be like Ryan Trahan, who I love, who's in Austin, Texas too. And Ryan is just like, I'm trying stuff and this might fail and I have no idea and you guys can come along. The proof could actually be you just trying a thing and it not working one way or the other. And so I think the only problem with this type, which is experience as opposed to expertise, is that with expertise, you have attention and intention, aka intent to buy. Whereas if you're just experiencing things, you might have attention, but what are you going to sell? Because you don't have like a value derived from it. Where's your intent? I mean, if you think about who are the biggest creators online? OnlyFans, the Kardashians, what are the biggest websites online? Porn sites. That's a lot of attention, but the intent to buy is going to be low for any of those over time writ large. And so I think you have to ask yourself, okay, if I get a ton of attention, let's make sure I'm really thoughtful on what I get attention for. And then let's think about once I have that attention, where do I actually have some sort of expertise or value that I can trade in order for people to have an intent to buy? And I think about it like this. Rihanna, huge star, right? Big celebrity, billionaire now because of Fenty Beauty. Drake, giant celebrity, arguably more views, more hits than Rihanna, worth 1/5, 1/6, 1/8 what Rihanna is worth. Why? Because he has tons of attention, but he hasn't actually done much to get intent to buy from him. And so Rihanna's just categorically better, if we define better as bank account and scoreboard on net worth, than Drake is at monetizing their intention. And so I think that a lot of creators online think too much about views, likes, subscribes, and don't think very much about how do I monetize on top of this? Because nobody stays relevant forever online. And so I think while you're in the spotlight, you do have to think about how you're going to convert that funnel in some way.
That's a really great point. A lot of the people you see blowing up online, they do have a back end that monetizes it because, to your point, it costs money. You know, I probably spend $40,000, $50,000 a month just on retainers of people who are working on that stuff. And
Content.
yeah, content related stuff. And, you know, because I have businesses that can monetize that, then it's worth doing. But it's hard to compete with that if you don't have a back end. The other option is to work with someone who does have a business and they do have experience, they do have something to talk about, but they're busy and they need someone to project manage this. Because one thing that's happened is that to the traditional business owner, this personal brand thing and this building a content empire that builds your business, this is brand new to a lot of people. So there are plenty of people who've got a $50 million a year business and they're going, oh, should I show up online at all? Maybe I should. And they're just starting to tiptoe into the water and they've got a story, they've got a back-end business, they can monetize it, they can allocate budget to it.